Hello, everybody, and welcome to Serious Sunday. I'm your host, Luke, and this is the show where I talk about video games and things. And this week, although there are a number of things going on in the video game space, I thought I would talk just a little bit about the Nintendo Switch, because I haven't really weighed in on that particular piece of hardware just yet. I've been doing my best since the original announcement of the Nintendo Switch to try and curb my cynicism as much as possible. I've got a bit of a love-hate relationship with Nintendo and their hardware. Having at one point in my career worked on the Nintendo DS games, there might be a little bit of personal investment in this particular dissatisfaction with Nintendo in the past, but I try not to let that color my experience when looking, hopefully objectively, at new Nintendo hardware. But for better or worse, no matter how hard I try, I always have difficulty looking at Nintendo hardware and thinking that things are going to go well. I don't particularly like being doom and gloom, but things haven't really been looking very up for Nintendo since the release of the Wii U. I'm not saying that it was a bad piece of hardware. It was actually quite nice. Matt has one, so I've had the opportunity to play it hands-on, and as usual, the Mario titles and what have you are all very fun to play. Unfortunately, as has sort of historically been the case in the last few generations, the only company that ever really seems to be able to succeed on Nintendo hardware is Nintendo themselves. Between a combination of mediocre developer support and sort of a Galapagos-type isolationism from much of the rest of the games industry, their focus on hardware innovation has sort of been a two-edged sword for them. You're free to call it a lack of creativity on the part of third-party developers, but motion control, split screen, 3D, gyroscope, as cool as all of these features are, it's difficult to really focus on creating them as a central mechanic for your games when we're working in an industry that's proving more and more that exclusivity is not a very profitable business model. Of course, their own software does particularly well on their hardware, primarily because every time that they want to make a game that does something specific, they can just create support for the hardware for that. I'm not going to say necessarily that the hardware is built around the next Mario game for every generation, but while they can create software that's perfectly tailor-made for the hardware that they're creating, the rest of us have to scramble to figure out the best way to integrate all of the features that they have while not being able to access features that we might think would be useful. That said, however, it seems as though the Nintendo Switch is going for a little bit more of a traditional approach, which I can very much appreciate. I like the idea of a piece of hardware that works as both a home console and a portable gaming device. The steady rise of mobile phones has obviously shown us that players are still interested in doing gaming on the go, although time will only tell how well the Switch is able to bring back the gaming market to a handheld when it seems that everybody else has sort of abandoned the idea since we kind of realized that mobile phones just kind of have a stranglehold on that particular market. The rest of the console's specs are, well, as one can sort of expect from Nintendo hardware, middling, maybe, at best. They're not going to be blowing any of their major competitors out of the water by having something amazingly groundbreaking as far as technology is concerned, but they're going to do well for what they do. They realize that they can't really compete in the hardcore gaming market, so they've kind of given up on trying, and maybe that's in their best interest. PlayStation, Xbox, and PC are duking it out in that particular ground, and Nintendo is just getting left in the dust, so coming in swinging is probably not going to work out for the best for them anyway. They're giving a shot with Skyrim, and who knows, perhaps giving people the opportunity to play Skyrim on the go is going to be a good thing for them, but I can't imagine that a lot of third-party developers that are consistently making AAA content are going to be really jumping ship to accommodate the Nintendo Switch's specs. Good on Bethesda for giving it the old college try, however. We'll see how that works out, and who knows, maybe people will pick up on it. I'd like to see how Nintendo is going to handle the modding support that the other consoles have picked up very recently, but I'm not overly optimistic that Nintendo is going to pick up the ball and run with it like the others have. It took them long enough, and they're significantly more in tune with the modern gaming market than Nintendo has been for a very long time. Where online gaming is concerned, and that does definitely seem to be a major component of video gaming these days, Nintendo Switch is bandwagoning, I suppose, at the best. I'd like to say that I'm surprised and disappointed at the fact that they're creating a subscribed service for playing online, but I guess Xbox and PlayStation still do that. So players on consoles obviously haven't started revolting on that particular point yet. Following suit with the other two major online services for console, they are offering a monthly game download in order to sort of justify this subscription-based online gameplay service, but as primarily a PC gamer, I just don't really follow that particular line of thinking. I'd rather that you give me free online gameplay and not give me a monthly game, but we're not likely to see that. It's not all doom and gloom, however. The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild looks absolutely fantastic, and I've always been a fan of the Legend of Zelda series, so I'm very much hoping that I get the opportunity to play it. It's not quite enough of a killer app for me to consider the Nintendo Switch to be a first-day buy for me yet, but give me a few more console exclusives that I'm particularly excited about, and I'll start to think about it, maybe. It's been kind of a long time since I've personally gotten excited about a Mario game. Perhaps I'm a little bit too curmudgeonly, but Mario Galaxy didn't really do it for me. Mario Sunshine seemed just strange and also had some weird, creepy undertones that I don't know that I'm very comfortable with. As far as essentially confirming that Princess Peach has at least laid one egg and not stuck around to see what happened with it. If you're not following that particular line of thinking, just replay Super Mario Sunshine or watch a video of some of its cutscenes and you'll see when Baby Bowser points to Princess Peach and calls her mommy and her response is, "I'm your mommy?" You would think that she'd know. Just creepy is all. But I'm getting way off on a tangent, so I'll stop on that particular line of thinking. The rest of the Switch's early lineup are going to be excited for at least some people. Skylanders, Just Dance, Splatoon 2. There are a lot of child and family-friendly games that are going to be coming out on the Nintendo Switch that are probably going to do reasonably well for them. But it still remains to be seen whether the children and families demographic are going to be able to sustain the Nintendo Switch. As though I'm sure that Nintendo is making a profit, the Wii U hasn't even exactly been an earth-shattering success, having sold fewer units than the PlayStation Vita in the last year. But despite all of my doom and gloom, Nintendo is going to release another piece of hardware and Nintendo fans are going to buy that hardware and Nintendo is going to make a profit. At the $300 price point, it's going to be competitive with the new PlayStation 4 iteration that's coming out. But I have a feeling that a lot of other skeptics like myself are going to be waiting to see what else the Nintendo Switch has on offer. And I'm eagerly looking forward to see how their third-party support measures up to how it's been historically. And with any luck, we'll see a lot more third-party games on the Nintendo Switch than we have seen in the past. As in some ways, that's really been part of the crux of some of Nintendo's major issues in the past. Microsoft and Sony have started to embrace indie culture, and though many people are predicting an indie games crash pretty soon, thanks to the ridiculously largely increasing number of game releases every month and the unfortunately increasing volume of subpar quality in those games. But small-scale game releases by enthusiastic developers interested in creating on hardware that Nintendo has created, which historically they haven't had the opportunity to do so on, could possibly be a driving factor in making the Nintendo Switch a really strong success, assuming that they keep to their level of quality control that they've done in the past. Only time will tell, however, and despite the general tone of today's video, I am actually cautiously optimistic about the Nintendo Switch. I myself am probably not going to buy one anytime soon, but I can usually count on Matt, who's usually a much more optimistic early adopter, to get his hands on one that I'll be able to also play around with a little bit myself. And maybe we'll even make a couple of videos. Although I'm always leery about making videos on Nintendo hardware since they have some weird policies when it comes to YouTube. But anyway, those are my curmudgeonly, cynical thoughts about the Nintendo Switch. I'll be very happy to see if it does well, and I'm watching it with very vested interest. But that's about all I have in me today, so I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you aren't already a subscriber to our channel, you're always welcome to join this little family of gamers who enjoy playing games and making them as well. But even if you decide to just keep it casual, I'm glad that you dropped by and I do hope that you think about coming around again. Thank you as always for watching, and have yourself a great day. Take care.